Good evening. Hello. I am Sharona, and you are watching the Zone Blitz, a weekly webcast produced by NFL Female. Many apologies to all of our viewers out there. We were having some technical difficulties with the fine people at Gridiron Moe. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to have them join us tonight, but they are going to be back with us on September the 23rd. We will be previewing their fabulous football app. It's new, it's exciting, it's very different from everything that you're used to. And so we're really happy to get them back on the show. And unfortunately, had some technical issues, but we are here, and Sonja and I are really proud to be previewing for you guys what we're going to be doing over the course of the next few weeks, and talking about our new series on women and imagery in sports. We're going to talk about that in the second part of the hour with Claire, our wonderful Claire, who is one of the brightest sports minds that I know, and I'm very happy to call her my friend. But before we get to that, I want to bring Sonja in. But first, let me tell you, I am the official fan reporter for the Tennessee Titans for NFL Female. I'm very proud to be associated with NFL Female and all the wonderful women there. And thank you for tuning in. Sonja, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you, Miss Sharona? Oh, go ahead.
I am wonderful. Thanks for asking.
Great. I am so glad to be here. I am Sonja. I am the official fan reporter of the Detroit Lions for NFL Female. So glad to be on with my boo. Since last week, it's just the greatest hour of football and football talk. I love it.
It really is. This is one of the highlights of my week. I always love talking football with you, Sonja. I had a chance to talk about your Detroit Lions a little bit. I did a podcast before I did this show, and
cool.
I got to tell you, I had a lot of love for the Lions, but everyone else not so much.
No, people don't have a lot of love for the Lions, and sometimes even Lions fans, even the Lions faithful don't have. But you know what? It's kind of like when you talk about the city of Detroit and when you talk about the Lions. We can talk about the Lions, Detroit fan can, but once you come outside,
absolutely.
We totally defend our team. So we totally
That's just the way it works, baby.
Exactly. But yeah, I mean, I can totally see why people don't have a ton of confidence in the Lions, but I mean, I don't have a lot of confidence in them because I have a strange feeling in the back of my mind that they're going to like shoot themselves in the foot like they always do in the past. But you never know. It's a new season. Lots are going on.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. Why haven't they, there's been a lot of talent on that roster, and why have they not been able to take advantage of it? And I think that's part of the problem, don't you think?
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, they've had everybody. I mean, they've got Calvin Johnson. They've got Reggie Bush. Granted, he's not in his prime, but he's still Reggie Bush. We've got Eric Ebron now, and we've got Matt Stafford. Hello. And he's a 5,000. He threw for, 5,000 yards a few times? So, I mean, we've got all the talent in the world, so I don't know what's going on with this team. We've got Ndamukong Suh, one of the better defensive players in the league. We've got Fairley, who, the two of them were supposed to strike fear in the hearts of the quarterbacks of the rest of the NFC North and everybody else. But we really haven't done that. So I don't know what's going on with these guys. But hopefully we get it cleaned up. Hopefully, we got a new regime change. We got Jim Caldwell, so I'm hoping that will kind of turn us around and hopefully get us where we need to be.
Yeah, we didn't get a chance to talk much about the Titans. I will talk a little bit about them while we are waiting for Claire, our wonderful sister Claire at NFL Female, to join us. But cut days, I should say, have taken place between this show and our last show. Were you surprised by any of the cuts you saw for the Lions or for anybody else in the league?
No, not really. I think pretty much, I will say Champ Bailey, that was kind of a surprise to me.
Yeah.
That really was a surprise for me.
It did me too, because I mean, I understand that he's getting up there. I mean, in NFL years, he's an old man.
Right,
But
right.
it sounded like he was doing well and was going to be in the mix for the Saints, and then all of a sudden, boom, he's gone.
Boom.
And so,
Gone.
but they
And
also released Ryan. They released Ryan Griffin today. I thought that was rather strange.
Exactly. That was a little odd. I don't understand where some of these guys, like, where they're thinking, what's going on with everybody's thinking, but yeah.
A lot of quarterback carousels going on, aren't there?
Yes, Ryan Mallett down to the
down to the Texans.
Down to the Texans. I like that. I like that a lot.
You know,
that kind of gives them a little bit of direction and solidification at their quarterback position. I
they
like
released
that.
Case Keenum.
And then you slide over to West Coast there. You got over in Oakland, David Carr taking over for Matt Schaub. So, a lot going on.
Start the car. They're starting the car.
Exactly.
I did not start that hashtag, by the way. Someone got onto me on Twitter for using it, though.
What?
I think it's kind of cute.
I like that. I think that's cute.
I think it's cute.
I'll use it if you want me to, because we can do it and we can just bring it out there.
We'll use it, baby. We don't care. No fear.
Exactly.
No shame in our game.
None. No shame in our game. Just like we have no shame in asking Joe Foria to twerk it a couple times when we get to the end zone this year, baby.
Big Joe, buddy, you got to twerk it for us, baby. We want to see you twerk in the end zone. Twerk it. You know you want to. You want to do it.
Exactly. He wants to. He knows he wants to.
Totally does.
Completely.
All right. Well, let's talk a little bit, Sonja, about what we're going to be doing. In the second part of the hour, we're going to preview and start our new series on women and sports imagery. And this has been a topic that's been of some concern for me for a while now. And as fantasy football season has started to loom, we're starting to see promos for fantasy football, and as women are becoming more recognized as a market, obviously these media places are wanting to. I'm trying to give them the benefit of the doubt. I'm trying to be careful here. They're wanting to target women. I'm not sure they're going about it in entirely the right way. We'll talk about that a little bit more when Claire gets in here. I will say this. I truly believe that there's room for, as long as the voice is not hate filled with hate or demeaning or troubling in racist or misogynistic, sexist. I believe that all voices have value and should be heard. And that's going to be tested as we talk about some of the things that we're getting ready to talk about. We're going to get Claire in here. We're going to start the discussion. I'm going to serve as the moderator. We are all adults here, and we're free to express our opinions. And trust me, we are going to keep it real. So,
yeah, we are.
Because and I'll start. Well, Claire should be in here in a minute. I want to say this. I'm extremely disappointed in the name that CBS Sports chose for their new all-female show. Now, I fully approve of the fact that these media outlets are finally accepting that, hey, look, women are knowledgeable, they can talk about sports. I thought the name was very ill chosen. In case you're watching and you have not seen or heard, CBS is calling their new all-female sports show We Have to Talk. Now listen. First of all, and I just have to say this, no one in the history of ever wants to hear what you have to say after you say those words.
Yes.
I don't care if it's a man. I don't care if it's a woman. It's the most poorly phrased introduction ever to having any sort of conversation. Secondly, it really reinforces, in my opinion, an archaic notion, an archaic stereotype of women, that we're all about talking and feelings. Look, you know what? So we talk, so we can talk. That does not mean that we are not knowledgeable. That does not mean that we're just, and I use this term on the radio this morning, and I'm trying to get it right again. I said that we're not all feather-brained, silly ninny hammers. You know, I mean, there are a lot of women. Right? There are a lot of women. The name doesn't sit well with me, and I want to get Sonja and Claire to weigh in on that. How do you feel about the name for the new CBS sports show? Claire, I'll start with you.
Yeah, start with Claire.
Thank you, darling. It's one of those things that's made fun of, I think, a lot by guys or on male-oriented radio shows. The whole "we have to talk," and it always has a negative connotation. That's the last thing you want to hear from your girlfriend, significant other, wife. We have to talk. And so it just makes it feel like, oh, we're women, we're relationshipy, we communicate, we go through our feelings. And I should probably save this line for later, but can we just forget what sex organs a person has and allow them to watch football or sports as a sports fan?
Exactly.
Does it matter?
Yeah.
So that just gets on my nerves. It makes it way too girly based.
Sonja, how do you feel about it?
Yeah, it's girly based. I mean, we totally have to talk about what? I mean, that just sounds so bad. Like, what do we have to talk about? We have to talk about football. I mean, that's fun and true. Once you do hear that phrase, we have to talk, you kind of shut out right there, and you're just like, if you're like me, you panic, and you're like,
because you know something bad. Nobody ever says we have to talk and it's going to be good, right?
Right.
Exactly. It's horrible when you say that. And like, you know, I look at some of the sports talk radio shows and some of the names. The Discussion. That's a really good name because you're having a discussion. And women can't have a discussion about sports. I mean, I like stuff like that, but we have to talk. No, I mean, and that also implies coffee. Not that, you know, there's anything wrong with coffee. I'm not that big of a coffee fan. But that just sounds like we're talking over coffee and we're just chatting about.
Well, everybody knows you drink wine in a.
Exactly.
No, I mean, it's totally a joke. Claire, you touched on something. Excuse me, you touched on something, and I want to ask you about this. You also tweeted about it. It's stuck with me, and I think that I actually retweeted it. I have never felt like anything good comes from a separate, but maybe sort of kind of equal system. Mm-hmm. And treating women as a fan base, as sports fans, as something different from a male sports fan, I think has with it inherent problems. And I think we're starting to see those inherent problems because, you know, I mean, why? We're sports fans. We're knowledgeable. We can read. We have brains. Mm-hmm. We can process things. And I don't know. Is that a good thing or not?
I think that there are probably people who find the whole we're women and we like sports thing comforting because maybe they don't feel that they have the knowledge to compete with in a traditionally male-based conversation or discussion. They may feel more comfortable because they feel like women may be more nurturing. Those ladies out there perhaps exist. They do. We know them. We all know them. But at the same time, there are times, if you're giving these ladies, for instance, a talk show to talk about sports, it's obvious that they know as much as many of the men in the industry. And it's just differentiating it and making a big deal of the fact that they're women and they have a show why separate it? Where's the benefit to anybody in making it for females? I don't know.
Listen, I will say this. I think that the concept of having an all-female, because obviously that's what we do, right? You know, we have those concepts through NFL female. And the value in doing that as a system is opportunity, because there's very limited opportunity for women to talk about sports, to write about sports, and sometimes you have to create your own opportunities. And so, I'm okay with the concept of an all-female, sports show. I think that that's okay. I do like the idea of having diversity and having, you know, a mixture of men and women in a show. But don't you guys think that when you see that, far too often when you see that, the woman is ornamental? She's like Sage Steele. She didn't get to talk much on NBA Count. I mean, you barely hear from her at all. She's just there to serve as window dressing and moderate.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and you have like the Erin Andrews of the world who are strictly there just for the younger male viewer and stuff like that, not really looked at for, you know, her sports knowledge. Honestly, well, I don't want to get into Erin Andrews, but I mean, she's really there strictly for that demographic.
She's ornamental. That's all she's there for, is to be ornamental.
And then, you know, you look at people like, say, a Dana Jacobson or a, who else am I thinking, like a Jackie Mack or something like that. People who, you know, are legitimate, like knowledgeable on sports, but they, you know, they're kind of there for just a little bit, just for show every now and then, just to say, hey, look, we can include a girl every now and then they leave. But they're very knowledgeable individuals. And so, you know, you've got that factor as well.
Right. Yeah, Claire, what do you think?
Well, I think my favorite example of this probably is the NFL AM show, the one on NFL Network, where, okay, the girls are drop dead gorgeous. I mean, they're all beautiful, and they're all knowledgeable. They all speak their mind well. But when it comes to the analysis, they go over to the male co-hosts and counterparts and let them fill us in on the analysis. Whereas, maybe the women don't feel as comfortable with that part of it. Maybe they feel better relegated to a host position. But it would be a real bummer to find out that they resented being in that role if they were capable of providing the analysis that the guys provide.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think? And I'm going to try to be careful about this. I do think that there are still people, and I don't think that it's isolated to the male population. I think that there are still people who don't think that women are capable of being analysts, who are capable of bringing that. And you know, there's definitely a bias that only, like when we're talking about football, that only former players are capable of talking about the game, and that by its very definition excludes, you know, women, because we didn't, you know, I mean, we've been denied that opportunity, haven't been given that, you know, we've tried. It's very, very, very difficult for a woman to do that, you know, not just from a practical, but, you know, physical and everything. We're still a long ways. Who knows if that will ever come about, but, you know, a lot of that is due to that viewpoint, don't you think, Claire?
Yeah, someone that I really have grown to like in Houston sports media, former player. He played for NFL teams for many years. He was a very good player, very well respected. He has a show on one of the local radio stations here, and he made a comment. I forget exactly who it was directed to, but something to the effect of, women talking about sports and how they weren't qualified because they never played. And so I came back to him and said, well, how about all the guys who have never really played a sport? They went to journalism school and they learned how to write or talk in front of a camera. That's the same thing. Just because they have a penis, they know how football X's and O's work better than a woman because she's missing that Y chromosome. I mean, what's the logic? And we never really resolved that argument, but he's actually taken to some of the stuff that I put out there, and he's opened his mind a little bit, I think. But
who was it? Do you mind revealing who it was?
Well, it was Greg Cook. He played for the Packers for many years back in probably, I guess, 80s, maybe late 70s, probably in his early 50s, I would guess, late 40s. So, yeah, I mean, and he's a good guy. I think he's just jaded to something that women don't get it. And, yeah, it's not something he's broached on the radio. He's been a lot more cognizant of what he says, I think, since that little uproar, but it's to find those people, because they're out there.
Yeah, I think that they're definitely out there. So want to get into this fantasy football stuff, and that's where we're going to start the discussion. There are a lot of examples. We're not going to limit this topic to just one show. We're going to be talking about this on a regular basis. We won't promise to talk about it every week, but we're going to talk about it as part of an ongoing series here. So we definitely want to hear from you, by the way. Let us know what you think. Let us know your thoughts. We'll be tweeting out the images. I want to start with this Fox Sports 1 fantasy football promo. And then we're going to turn to the ESPNW fantasy football article that everybody has been talking about. The Fox 1 Sports promo. Now, Claire, I know that you have some thoughts on this.
It is the typical, and the same radio station that gentleman works for that I spoke of earlier, they do it too. The typical annoying, irritated, angry that sports exists wife that society likes to stereotype women as. Being mad because there's all this college football available to her husband, and her husband's never going to do anything she wants, and so she's freaking out, and she's mad, and she's the bad guy.
She's a nag.
Yeah. She's a nag. She's one of those. I know so many women, and maybe they're the exception and not the rule. I don't know every woman. I don't know every relationship. But most of the women I know, they hang out with their dudes, drink some beer, whatever, eat some food, cuss a little bit at the game, and it's fun for them. And commercials and society, that one particular commercial in particular made it seem like women are the enemy. They are less than sports, and they will drag you away from sport and hurt you.
Yes.
We're different. We're different. We try to take you away from sports. We try to. We're a problem in sports. We nag. We don't.
Yes.
We don't bring. And it all boils down to. It all boils down to we don't bring any value.
Exactly. And I get this when I'm listening to sports radio. And gosh, what's that? There's a product that they advertise like Snapbox or something like that, where you can watch, whatever game is on your phone. You can watch it on your phone or your tablet or something like that. And it's always, if your wife has, a to-do list, a honey-do list for you, or wants to take you shopping, you don't have to miss the game. Or she has a wedding to drag you to, you don't have to miss the game. And it's that irritates the crap out of me, because number one, I'm watching the game. I don't want to go shopping. And once again, like you said, Claire, maybe we are just the exception and not the rule, and that's why we get so bothered by it. But stuff like that just irritates me, because I don't know, that irks me so much. And then one time I was listening on the way to work, sports radio again, and one of the radio host was like, my wife tends to go for, the hot-looking guys. That's what gets her to watch football. So I'm sure that's the same with you and all your wives out there. And I wanted to just, stab myself in the ears. I was like, I can't believe heard that.
That's a bonus.
Look, that is the worst.
Oh my God.
Look,
that irritated me.
women are human too, by the way. We're people. We have the same wants, needs, and desires as the male population. Believe it or not, we do appreciate looking at an attractive man. Bonus if that attractive man is wearing a tight-fitting, very nice football uniform. These are undeniable things, but we don't watch the sport for that. Well, not all of us.
Exactly.
You know, I mean, look, I started watching football before I could walk, before I could talk. My mom used to always tell people that I could do the hook 'em horn sign before I could do anything, and the first words out of my mouth were hook 'em. You know, I did not start watching sports because
Look at Claire's face.
Were hot. I can promise you, I did not, because I was like 2 years old.
Right.
You know?
Exactly. Totally. I mean, I was almost born at a Michigan football game, for crying out loud. You know. So I mean, that stuff is in your blood. You know it, and that's what it is to you. It's not, you know, just all hot guys running around in tight shorts or anything like that.
But I do wonder, Claire, I think that it was you that made this point. I do wonder if women are, you know, obviously there are different audiences here. They're different because it seems to me that I have found that the women who grew up with it, who grew up on sports, who have a lifelong love of sports and the game, are the ones that really don't like these commercials. And they really, really, really didn't like the ESPNW article on fantasy football because they felt like it was, it took away from that knowledge that they had gained over the course of, you know, years, basically their entire life. But I think that does beg the question of, you know, I mean, there are different audiences out there. To me, the problem is that CBS, ESPN, Fox Sports, none of them seem to be recognizing the fact that there are women out there who do have this knowledge. And when you're assaulted with all of these images of, women have to learn to understand fantasy football through relationships. I mean, I understand. I understand the problem there, but it's hard for me to, you know, it's hard for me to be critical because I understand that. Look, we all work hard, and we're all wanting to be recognized for our hard work, for our talent, for what we have done. But I don't know that this is the right way to go about gaining that female audience. And if that's part of it, don't you think that there needs to be like equal representation?
Yes, completely. I think that there needs to be equal representation, and maybe, I don't know, maybe stuff like the ESPNW article does help get those people, those women who don't know anything and about football, and I think maybe does that help them bring it in or bring them into it? I don't know. Honestly, I can say, looking at it, I was wondering what in the world relationship status has to do with draft status. Draft positioning. I mean, that was the first thing I was thinking. I was like, how do the two even relate? That makes no sense in my mind.
Raise your hand if you thought that was written by some dumb guy.
Possibly, yeah.
You know, and I know I shouldn't. I mean, I Twitter know. You know, the women who are associated with that article, and you know, they work very hard, and a lot of what they do is extremely good. So I was not aware that they were the ones who had written the article in the beginning. You know, I always want to be supportive of other women doing their thing, because it is hard. And I think that we all know as women, we take criticism to heart. It's just the truth.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of guys do that too, but I think that, and it's because it's been so incredibly difficult for women to get that recognition.
Right.
Yeah. You go into a fantasy football league and you're already fighting over the fact that you are a woman. That most women don't know sports, and so what does this chick know about whatever?
We're fluffy-headed, feather-brained women who don't know jack about sports.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
I think the authors of that whole article would have done themselves a great service by simply saying at the beginning of the whole piece, if you're looking to get into fantasy football, then this is going to be maybe a way for you to remember or deal with the differences in the types of players you're drafting. I still don't agree with it, but that definitely defines their target audience. And then a later sentence say, if you've already been playing, you probably know all of this. You know, if you just want to look at our cheat sheets, and that's cool. I still don't like the whole, let's break it down into relationships, and there's marriage material, friends with benefits material, and one-night stand material. Yeah. I don't like that.
I think that was a big part of the problem that I had with it. Like, being in a relationship should be, you might be keeping an eye on the sports over here, but ladies, it really is all about you being in a relationship, and you know, and that should be the goal. That's the image that we want to portray, is that, you know, women are only concerned about relationships. You know, guess what? Not every woman is all that concerned about being in a relationship.
Exactly. Exactly, and nor should they be. But then, gosh, I completely lost what I was going to say. Oh, well, keep it moving.
We'll give you a minute, Sonja. Take a
minute. Relationship status. Go ahead. It'll come back to me. I know.
What I was going to say, what I was going to say is that I think, too, it distracted from the content. Because, you know, you had all of this stuff, and then and there was obviously a lot of work and a lot of research went into this particular piece, and, you know, it had a lot of information in it, but to me it was lost in all of that, and I think that you know, I just
I kind of remember what I was going to say again.
Okay.
But like, if you're trying to actually legitimately get more female fans involved, the ones that know absolutely nothing, then just tell them what they need to know. I mean, the first thing that they're looking at fantasy football, that's a giant step right there. And you don't want to, you know, discourage them by, you know, talking about relationship statuses. For crying out loud, what if they just got out of a horrible relationship or something like that, and that's the last thing on their mind? You know, I mean, and not, I think that that's probably a better way of going about it, is just kind of saying, all right, this is what we need to know. Because some of the people that I work with, you know, we have a fantasy league going, and a lot of them are like, I don't know. And so I'm trying to help them out and just see, you know, why it's so exciting, where the fun is in it. And so it just kind of helps them. But I don't know, just to refer to it just as relationship status, I think, like you said, it kind of turns people off, and it doesn't really respect them for wanting to try to learn.
Yeah. Claire?
I mean, it does feel just, I mean, okay, I had this conversation I was on with Andy Carlson, who I'm doing a new podcast with, And he asked me about it, and I sort of laid it out for him. And his first thing was, when I got down to the friends with benefit part and then the one night stand part, that's just sexist. And I was like, it kind of is. It kind of demeans, I don't know. I don't understand exactly. Maybe, Sharona, you're good with words like this. I can't point why it's sexist. It just feels sexist. It just feels wrong.
To me, it's, and I understand that it was written by females.
Right.
To me, that the problem is that whole, you're different, we have to talk down to you in order to get you this knowledge that will help you in understanding this new thing, this fantasy football thing. I just don't know. I'm uncomfortable with that as a marketing tool, as a thought process. I don't want to be treated differently.
No.
It's not like the Cosmopolitan magazine rules to being in a fantasy football league. I mean, that doesn't exist.
Wear a skimpy bra and panties and sit in your man's lap or something. I mean,
lap while he drafts. Yes,
right.
That's what you need to do.
Yeah, right. I mean, it sort of reminds me of that note that was circulating around, right? About, honey, we'll both be at the game, but if the team loses, I'm going to make everything all better for you. I'll do everything you need and want. I'll hold your head and on my shoulder while you cry. I mean, but you know what I'm talking about, right?
Right.
No.
It's not like I isolate myself in the bedroom, so I'm staying out of your hair while the game's on. But here's the thing. Whatever it is that she made for him. I don't know. Yeah, it was silly.
Yeah, and how many? I mean, raise your hand if you've. Let me tell you how I got introduced into the fantasy football world. I was dating a gentleman who lived in New York City, and he was part of a keeper league with a bunch of guys from New Jersey. And they had a team. A guy was leaving their league and had a team, and they were needing an owner to come in and pick it up. And I said, he asked me, he was like, would you be interested? And I was like, well, I've never played before. He was like, look, baby, you know more about football than anybody I know. You should totally do this. And I was like, okay. So I had like an hour-long interview with the commissioner before they would even let me join. I had to interview for this. Right?
Isn't that horrible?
Right. And so I go to the live draft, and like maybe one or two of the guys talked to me. They were not at all sure that they wanted me in the league. By the way, I went to playoffs. I had a crappy team. I had a crappy. I inherited the worst team. It was so crappy. I rebuilt it. And went to and I got lucky because a lot of it's luck, right? I got lucky. Yeah. I went to the playoffs. The next draft, I got a lot more conversation from a lot more of the guys. So
get some respect. Yeah.
But you had to earn it.
Well, it does work the other way. Yeah, you did. It's sad you had to earn it, but you did. I was in a league with a bunch of guys and 3 girls for 7 years. The last 3 years, all females took the championship, and the guy who started the league said, we're not doing it anymore. I'm tired of losing to the girls. And so he actually stopped the league because they didn't want to lose to the girls anymore. So that happened. Awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
Nothing like the
Again, I don't know. There aren't any answers here. It's just a conversation. And I think that it's an important conversation. I don't like, and we didn't even get a chance to talk about that NHL thing. We're going to talk about that. This is not limited to football and fantasy football. It is across the board. And we're going to talk about this whole NHL thing. There's going to be plenty more. Sadly, there will be plenty more opportunities to continue to have this discussion. I think that we had a good start tonight. We value all viewpoints on this. I want to keep this as a very respectful discussion, and I think that we did a really good job tonight, just
I think
airing
so.
out the issues and the problems that we see here, and we'll continue to have this discussion. Claire, I did not get a chance to let you tell everyone who you are and where to find you. And I was going to ask you about this fabulous new podcast. I want you to give it a big shout out.
Thank you so much, guys. I'm doing this new podcast with Andy Carlson. He is a huge Vikings fan, and I jumped on his podcast once, and we had good chemistry, and then someone else came to me and said, hey, we're doing this weekly radio show with a bunch of different podcasts every night. Do you want a show? And I was like, well, only if I can do it with Andy. That would be perfect. So he decided to join me, and we're doing
That's great.
Late Night sportsradio.com, and it's the Claire and Carlson show. I got the top billing, yes. Victory is mine. Well, it flowed better, whatever, it's fine. And so we're doing that. It'll be on Tuesday night, but it'll be recorded also, so it'll be available whenever. But we got the prime Tuesday night after Monday Night Football, so we get the most interesting discussions on our show.
We need to get you and Andy. We need to get you and Andy on here to talk about this.
Totally.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'd love that. He's crazy, man. He's wild. He's hilarious.
He is great.
He's insane. Yeah. And so then he's actually joining the NFL Female podcast tomorrow night, the Wednesday night with NFL Female.
Oh, we're doing our division to make the rounds.
So, yeah, we're going to be picking all the divisional winners from each division, the AFC and NFC, and we'll fight about it, and we'll argue, and we'll come to conclusions. Like, world peace is in our hands tomorrow night.
Awesome.
Well, I am very excited, and I can't wait to listen to it. I think that it's going to be fabulous. So, all right, well, we got started late, but we're going to go ahead and cut it a little bit short because it is 9 o'clock, and we all have other things to do. But I want to thank Claire again for joining us, and I want to give a big shout-out to Rhonda from Gridiron Moe. So sorry that we weren't able to fix the technical issues, but we're very, very, very excited to have you on September the 23rd. Next week, we're going to be talking some fantasy football with Liz Loza, and I'm very excited. I'm very excited to have her. And then Brad Wells, an NFL writer, is going to be joining us. He has covered the Colts, but we'll get his opinion on a lot of different things that should be fun. So stay tuned into that. Sonja, take us out.
All right, everybody. I'm Sonja again. I am the NFL female fan reporter for the Detroit Lions. You can find me on Twitter at mom, 2, 3, RN, writing about the Lions. You can also find me on A Good Sports Hang, writing about any and everything over there. And I've also recently been decided to be the Wolverine correspondent for Bose, speaking on sports. So every now and then I'll be on railing on
Go Blue, right?
Go Blue all day long. So that'll be cool. So thank you so much, Claire, for joining us. It was an awesome discussion.
Fabulous.
I can't wait to talk some more about this topic because it's one that gets me going.
Yeah, I think it's very important. We need to continue to have these discussions, and I too want to thank Claire for joining us. We love Claire on this show, and we're going to have some more of our NFL female sisters on to talk about it. You know, we want your opinions. We want to hear from you. What do you think about this topic? Tweet us, or I can send out a link for you to email us. I'm Sharona. You can find me on Twitter at Sports by Sharona. You can find out all my happenings on there, and also on my personal website, sportsbysharona.com. Big shout out to Liz from NFL Female, who we love so much, for giving us this opportunity to have these types of discussions. I feel like we represent, in a lot of ways, we represent that long-standing, die-hard female fan, and I think that our voice is important, and I'm glad to be part of a webcast that allows us to do that. So stay tuned in. We'll be back next Tuesday night, 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time, the Zone Blitz by NFL Female. Thanks for watching.
Night, guys. Night.